Yeah.
All right, extra point. Terry Ford, Jack Velcher from Gamecock Central. Tyler will be back on Monday. Well, Jack, we got a W last night, my man.
Yeah, South Carolina, comeback win last night, energized the fan base, start the World Series run because here come the Gamecocks, right?
Anything can happen, Jack. We've learned that in this world.
Yes, anything can happen, and maybe luck will finally start being on South Carolina's side the rest of the way. It definitely was last night in that 8th inning with that 5-run rally.
And Paul Maneri, post-game, Jack, we'll get to this real quick. Maneri talking about the win, as soon as I get my stuff together here, talking about the win over Winthrop.
So I'm proud of our guys. Some of them haven't been real pretty. Like tonight wasn't real pretty for about 5 innings. I don't think we hit a ball hard until Scobie hit that home run. Actually, I think Casmore hit one hard right to second baseman in the 1st inning. But we haven't really a lot of good at-bats. But, we hung in there. I thought, we were pitching pretty well. They had 1.3 runs on 3 solo home runs. I think they were all on 3-2 pitches, if I'm not mistaken. So, we weren't pitching that poorly, really. And then we had 2 outs, nobody on. When Jarvis was on the mound, we hit a batter and then walked a batter. And, they got a couple of fluky runs there. So, but hey, the kids didn't give up. We got some big hits in that inning, not just Bose, but Hall and Casmore had big hits for us. And, geez, when I saw that center fielder closing on Bo's ball, I thought that this is very typical of the year we've had. This kid's going to make a diving catch and break our hearts right now. And fortunately, the kid was just a little bit late getting there, and the ball fell and got away from him. And Boyd, his blazing speed from first base, was able to score.
All right, so a couple things. A, it looked bleak for a bit, Jack.
Mm-hmm.
It looked bleak.
It looked a little bit more than bleak. It looked like South Carolina was about done in that game.
And I won't lie to you, because I was listening to the call with Derek and Stewart, and you're starting to get there in the late innings. I'm not Derek, I'm sorry. Derek wasn't there.
Cade Crenshaw.
Yeah, Cade was in. So Cade and Stewart are doing the game. And I'm in the car. I got to go do stuff. I come back, listen more, go. And once I realized, because I remember, Winthrop hit a couple solo homers. I'm like, no big deal. It's 2-0. It's no big deal. Then I get in the car. Okay, now we're up to 5. This is not good.
It's the 8th inning. They're trailing 5-1, and I'm just like, I got my story ready. Like they're gonna lose this game, and they're gonna go down without any fight in the bats. But they. I don't know, for whatever reason, just the rally just randomly started in the 8th inning. Kennedy Jones comes up, pinch hits. He rips an RBI double into left. That gets by the glove of the left fielder. And then you get a few more hits. And then Bo Hollins comes through with a big hit on what looked to be a diving catch that would have potentially put the nail in the coffin on the night for South Carolina, but never went in the guy's glove in center field, and 3-run score. And that's the game right there, and Carolina wins.
Here's the interesting part is, first of all, the Kennedy Jones at bat was huge, and it can't be lost in this game.
Oh, huge at bat.
A gigantic pinch hit knock for Kennedy Jones, who has had just a
disappointing year.
Mind-boggling disappointing year.
Yes.
The guy he was last year is not the guy he's been this year. I know there's been some injuries and stuff, but he's just not the same player.
No.
And so I was really happy to see Jones get that hit. But what Paul Maneri said, you and I have had this conversation this week. I've had it with Tyler, Jay, heck, Bill, Preston, Jen, everybody, Wes, Chris. The mindset of how once you, and we go back to that Oklahoma game again, we were talking about this yesterday, losing the Oklahoma series when you really had that final game won.
Yeah.
And games you've lost this year that you could have won or had a lead and didn't win, or got away from you, like the Texas A&M debacle.
Yep.
What did Coach Maneri say? I thought that kid was going to come in and catch that ball.
Yeah.
How many other guys on that team are thinking the same thing, that, oh, bleep, that dude's going to make a great diving catch and we're going to lose?
Everyone thinks the same thing. Even I was thinking the same thing. It's like you've come to expect disappointment just because you've gone through so much heartbreak this year that nothing is off the table. And so a play like that, that's like the least of the amount of bad things that have happened to South Carolina this year. And you just expect it to because it's been the case all year. Luck has just simply not been on their side.
And you start to expect it. That's what we always talk about from the neck up. When you're winning, what do, Jack? You expect to win, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like let's take last night. Let's say South Carolina is third place in the SEC.
Yeah.
They're a top 10 team in America. And they're down because, teams lose midweek, right? And they're down like they were last night. You know what everybody in that dugout's saying? Oh, we're going to get them. Just a matter of time. You know we're going to get them.
Yeah.
Well, last night, they're not saying it, but they're thinking this. Oh, my God, we're going to lose to Winthrop. But so to their credit, they clawed back and found a way to get a W. They got a little help from Winthrop there at the end, but they clawed back and got a win in a game looked like they were dead in the water.
Oh, yeah. And look, they have not lost to all the issues they have this year. The one thing they have not done wrong is they haven't lost to the teams that they're, quote-unquote, supposed to beat. And they're 22-0 this year against mid-major opponents. And that's something you don't take lightly because there are a lot of teams out there that, like, top 10 teams in the country lose midweek games. And South Carolina only has one midweek loss this year, which came to North Carolina in Charlotte earlier in the year back in March. But other than that, man, they've handled their business. And so I think that needs to be, given a little bit of credit here. It's just SEC plays a completely different ball game, and they're just outmatched. But in midweek non-conference play, they're up to the task.
And to their credit, and that's what's so weird about this year, is like we've seen in previous years, South Carolina, stubbed the whole foot. Forget the toe, stubbed the whole foot in the midweek, right? But this year, despite all these issues against SEC opponents, they haven't let it leak into the midweek games. And you're right, the North Carolina game, North Carolina was ranked, neutral site. So there is, you go, okay, let's give them credit for the fact that they won these games they should have won all year against teams they should have beat. Last night also, let's give credit to Zach Russell, Parker Merlot. They both shut the door at the end, 2 1/3 inning of shutout relief to let South Carolina come back in the game.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, big outings for those guys last night. And I think a lot of people have been critical of the way, specifically with Marlot's usage, has just been non-existent this year. Like, the guy is your top reliever in terms of ERA. It's like he's the only guy with an ERA below 4 this year. So, you only use him for one inning over the weekend, throws 15 pitches, and he's the only guy to actually pitch a scoreless outing. So there's that against Auburn. But he does it again last night with that shutout ninth inning, retiring the side in order and getting the save. And, Zach Russell comes through with a big outing. So that can't be lost in the mix of, yes, the offense finally came to life last night in that 8th inning to get the win. But it doesn't happen without the pitching staff because we know how bad the pitching's been this year.
Mm-hmm.
But for once, and it's in these midweek games typically, the pitching was able to do enough to slam the door.
Because if you don't get that 2 1/3 of one hit shutout relief, we're not talking about a comeback.
You're not winning that game. No.
Not at all. Ethan Petrie came back last night, a little rusty.
Yeah, it didn't look great. 0 for 4 last night, 2 strikeouts. He had a few big situations where he could have been, this could have been the spot where he comes through with a big hit. The 6th inning or after KJ Scobie homered, he had a runner on first, 2 outs. He's serving as the tying run at the plate. He flies out to right field. And then I believe it was right after Kennedy Jones had his RBI double, and I think Kazmar had his RBI single. Petrie comes up, 2 on, 1 out or whatever it was, and he strikes out swinging as the go-ahead run. So rough night for him last night. I doubt he's 100% right now. I mean, he did not look completely healthy out there. And you got to respect him for wanting to come back because, look, the season's been a mess, obviously, and he could just focus on his future because he's going to get drafted pretty early this year probably. Focus on his future, but he's such a team guy that he wants to be back out there and stuff. So good on him for that. You hope that he just knocks off the rust last night and he's better moving forward because South Carolina is going to need him despite being able to get the win last night without him doing much.
Yeah, Petrie's a top 65 prospect in Major League Baseball.
Mm-hmm.
This season's been not very good. Petrie could have shut her down and said, hey, coach, I'm going to hear my name called in the first few rounds of the MLB draft. I want to kind of get healthy. How about a hug? But no, Petrie's out there playing. And here's Paul Mainieri talking about Ethan Petrie coming back.
So I was gone the last 2 days. made a recruiting trip to try to get some prospects for next year. So I actually wasn't at practice yesterday, and I got a text message from our trainer Corey Barton. He said, "Hey, I've got some good news. Petrie's feeling good, and he took some batting practice today, and I think he's going to be ready to play tomorrow." So I was on the road, like I said, traveling. I was on airplanes for 2 days, and when I had a break in the Atlanta airport, I sent Petrie a text message, and he said, "Yeah, I feel great, and anxious to get in there. I can definitely play tomorrow." So I was real excited about that, as you might imagine, and it was totally up to him and the trainer, and I wasn't pushing it at all, but obviously, Ethan could have just bowed out and, called it a season, but he wanted to get back in there and give the old college try, so to speak. And, it was a big uplift to everybody on the team. We were real happy that he went out there and tried it. I don't know how he feels right now, but he gave it a shot, and, I really respect him for that.
Yeah, just coming back and playing when he didn't have to. I mean, if you're the other guys in that dugout or in that clubhouse, you're like, all right, our dude wants to come back and try to finish this thing up.
Yeah, I mean, look, how can you not be motivated by that? Now, last night I only had one problem, though. KJ Scobie hits the home run last night, and could not help but notice Petrie was the only one to come out of the dugout and, congratulate him. I thought that was a little bit strange, but... No,
that's a lot strange. That tells you something.
That just tells you the vibe in the dugout. And look, they're losing at the time, but I just don't agree with that. That's just not ideal necessarily.
No, it's not. I mean, look, your boy just hit a home run. Maybe it's going to spark you and get something going. And dugout, let's get hyped.
Yeah.
Let's get going, man.
It doesn't help when you have 10 people in attendance last night, and you can't really feed off the crowd at all.
Right.
But you know what? Look, they got the win last night. It's all that matters. This weekend might be a different story. Number one team coming into town. Pulmonary's old team.
Mm-hmm.
Who knows, man? It's been a long year. Baseball is a crazy sport. Missouri goes out and sweeps Texas A&M, so nothing is off the table in terms of bad teams beating these Goliaths, but a good win nonetheless last night.
And the good news tonight, you get to watch a little about the good old days.
Yeah.
7 o'clock, SEC Network.
Even right now, you got the College World Series reruns on from 2010 and 11, and then tonight, 7 p.m., as you alluded to, Terry, you got the SEC storied In Spirit by former outfielder Jake Williams. So definitely check that out on SEC Network. And yeah, it'll be nice to hit on the nostalgia before whatever happens this weekend. Good, bad, whatever.
Yeah, I mean, 10, 11, obviously back-to-back titles, then 12 playing for the title, almost winning 3 straight, setting records for consecutive NCAA tournament wins, consecutive College World Series wins. You get to smack Clemson a couple times at Omaha. I mean, it was a hell of a run, man.
Oh, stuff that'll probably never be done again, specifically the tournament win streak. I mean, that in itself, It's tough to win baseball games, and winning games in a tournament setting, that's about as difficult as it gets for sure.
All right, coming back here on the Extra Point. Look, I got the name of the show right, Jack. Coming back on the Extra Point, we now know the kickoff time for South Carolina, Virginia Tech. We'll get into that next. Talk some Gamecocks right here on the Extra Point. Terry Ford, Jack Veltri on the game. Extra point. Terry Ford hanging in for Tyler this week. He'll be back on Monday. We think. Maybe.
Yeah, we'll see.
Nashville, man.
We'll see. We'll see how much he really likes his job when he comes back. He'll probably need a day to just recover from the hangover, man. It's gonna be. Hopefully, he has a nice time out there for sure.
Yeah, I was talking to a dude yesterday, a buddy of mine. He was talking about he goes to Nashville like every couple of years, and he was telling me some Nashville stories. The good news is Tyler has his wife with him, so most of those things most likely won't happen.
She'll keep him in check.
Exactly.
So he'll be all good.
Yes. Oh yeah, she's she'll keep him in check. There's no doubt. All right, so we know the kickoff time, August 31st, 3 p.m., South Carolina, Virginia Tech. That means our coverage here will start at 10 a.m., by the way, Gamecocks game day. Again, it's not like, wow, this is anything or something. Now we just know when the ball is going to get teed up, right? That's it.
Yeah, glad we finally know. I mean, we knew it was going to be a day game just because you have Notre Dame, Miami playing that night. And so, in a sense, ESPN is going to want to have it go back-to-back. And, it works for the college football fans that are watching on TV the day after all the good Saturday games. And, yeah, I like it that it's at 3 p.m. and not a noon kickoff. Noon kickoffs they're fine for work. But, the fans can't really get all the enjoyment out of the day.
No, it's one of those things where, it ramps up better in a lot of ways when you get that 3 o'clock kick. Obviously in Atlanta, Mercedes-Benz Stadium. And, Virginia Tech, I haven't seen Virginia Tech in any way too early top 25s. They were a lot of people's darling last year, and they massively underachieved, lost some close games, had some injuries. This year, they're not looked at as anybody's darling right now, Jack.
No, well, it started last year when they lost that game to Vanderbilt to open the year, and you're kind of like, what the heck, man? Like, this team is supposed to be a potential contender for the ACC, but that just was not the case last year. And, going into this year, I mean, Virginia Tech's got to, figure it out. I mean, if they're going to keep Brent Pry, what if they have another bad year? And so it starts with playing South Carolina, and South Carolina's the opposite. They're in a spot where if they have a good season here, it could lead to potentially making the college football playoff, which they were not able to do last year, falling just short. So these teams seem to be going in opposite directions, but again, it's the first game of the year. Things can happen, and Virginia Tech is not going to be someone that you can just, trounce or pounce all over. You got to be able to, play your best football and win this game.
You got to play well. You can't bring out your C&D game. You got to go out there and look. Nobody's super sharp in the opener. Everybody's got to get the kinks and the clunks out because you don't play preseason games and stuff like that. But it feels like as we sit here in May, that's a game that South Carolina obviously we looked at as the better team, and you should find a way to walk off the field with more points than Virginia Tech. We'll see, but that's the feeling going into this thing.
Yeah, I mean, there's going to be so much excitement about this South Carolina team that it would not shock me in the first game of the year, like you said, Terry, that there are going to be things to work out in terms of like, all right, it's looking a little bit sluggish on offense in the early going. Lenore Sellers isn't looking like a top 5 pick, Heisman Trophy finalist or Heisman Trophy winner right out the gate. And, I think eventually as the game wears on, you'll see a little bit more comfortability and stuff. But, that's what to kind of expect in a first game. And that goes for both sides, honestly.
Yeah, I mean, in South Carolina, all these new pieces on defense, interior of the offensive line is going to be new. You got a lot of stuff. You got a lot of things to smooth out as you get moving in this opener.
But the good thing is the season is not judged by one game.
Nope.
You have 11 more after that, and hopefully a lot more to come in the playoff. And if you're South Carolina, this is a cool opportunity, though, because you're in the national spotlight. You're playing on Sunday. Only one of 3 other teams playing on that day, matter of fact. And you get all the attention in that 3 o'clock window. So big deal for them. And it's against Shane Beamer's alma mater. His dad's old school that he coached at what feels like forever.
Now, does Dad wear one of those half shirts? It's half Virginia Tech, half South Carolina? Or is Dad all in on the Gamecock stuff?
I would imagine he's probably Frank wears the South Carolina stuff when he comes to the games, and you see him in post-game pressers and stuff just sitting there watching Shane. He's been in the Carolina stuff, so it wouldn't shock me if he still is. It also wouldn't shock me if they went maybe like the wife wears Mrs. Beamer wears the Virginia Tech stuff or Carolina stuff, whatever you want to do. Split it up. Virginia Tech hat, Carolina polo. I mean, I don't know. Maybe mismatching socks. One Virginia Tech sock, one Gamecock sock. I mean, got to mix it up.
All right. We didn't get into this yesterday. Shane did the welcome home in Rock Hill, and he was asked about the freshmen. And we all think about the wide receivers, which Shane did bring up. But he brought up another very interesting name, Jack.
I think you look at the wide receiver position, and naturally, just because of the depth that you want to have at that position, we don't want to go into a game and just play these three receivers every snap. I mean, we want to be able to rotate guys and be 6 deep, if you will, where you're playing at least 2 guys on the out, or 2 guys X, Z, F, if you think of it that way, in the slot and on the outside. Being able to have 2 guys in each position, so we'd like to have a depth of about 6 guys at least that we rotate in there. If we have more, that's even better. So if you say, okay, you're going to try and play 6 receivers, naturally you look at those freshman receivers. There's going to be a handful of them, if not all of them, that are going to play a lot. I feel confident saying right now that Shed Surratt, the freshman offensive lineman, put himself in position coming out of spring to play a lot. And then, beyond that, it really just kind of depends. But we're trying to get them all ready to play. There's no question about it. And how quickly they can show that we can get them out there, we want to get them out there as quick as possible.
Feels real comfortable. Shed Surratt, coming out of the spring, will play a lot.
Yeah. And
how about that? Do you expect to hear that?
I figured the wide receivers would be what was mentioned.
Mm-hmm.
And we've heard Shane mention Shed before. But, yeah, hearing that, that's a good sign. And, look, the size stands out. 6'4", 336 pounds, played guard and tackle as an all-state blocker at Gaffney High School. Do you know anything about Gaffney High School, Terry?
It's in South Carolina.
It is in South Carolina.
Mm-hmm.
It's where the peach butt water tower is that you see. So I don't think you know what I'm talking about.
No, I haven't. I haven't even gotten to Charleston yet, man. 3.5 years here. I haven't even. I very rarely leave the Columbia.
Too much Baltimore in you, man.
I have no life. I have no life. Every time I go somewhere, I'm scared something here is going to blow up. It's just unbelievable.
But Gaffney High School, I when I played football in high school, played against those guys a few times, and they're big. They are big dudes. Think of like what you hear about like Rock Hill and stuff, Football City, USA, South Point, Rock Hill, Northwestern, how big those dudes are. Gaffney's got some big dudes. I remember freshman year, high school football. We're playing against Gaffney, and this is just a freshman game, and you got Gaffney looking like a varsity team coming out here against a bunch of 5'0" freshmen at Fort Mill. It's crazy. So this guy, he's big. He fits the Gaffney profile, being a big dude that played football there. And, that's a really exciting thing to hear that Shane is high on Shed, and that's what you brought him in for, to potentially play. And where he fits in the offensive line, I wonder, because you have a lot of guys that are veterans now that are filling those spots, but is Shed a guy that is more of a rotational piece, or heck, does he actually start right out of the gate? That'll be very interesting to see.
All right, real quick, because any of us that have played football, whether it's high school, rec, Pop Warner, whatever, have walked on a field, well, most of us, and looked up and go, oh, my God, those dudes are big. What was your feeling seeing those Gaffney guys for the first time?
Dude, I remember, I think I was on like kickoff return or punt return my freshman year. And I remember getting laid out earlier in the season by a guy from Northwestern. I'm like, holy crap, man. Like, these guys, if I'm getting smoked by Northwestern guys, there's nothing I can do about it. I'm like 180 pounds at the time, 5'10", and I see these guys are like probably like 300 pounds. Like, I'm just like, please, for the love of God, don't kill me. I have a life to live. I have to be on the radio station in about 7 years. So probably 10 years actually. So let me stick around. Let me live a good life. And don't let me be in a wheelchair or crippled or something, or
Don't let me die.
Don't let me die. Don't let me be on my deathbed tomorrow morning. But fortunately, I think they heard me, and I'm here. And
you survived.
Yes, I survived. I'm perfectly okay, guys.
Push that bone in. All right. Up next on the Extra Point, Pete Rose Shoeless Joe, the bans have been lifted. We'll get into that next on the Extra Point here on the game.
everybody on their feet here in Cincinnati and a worldwide television audience watching these moments tonight here at Riverfront Stadium. 2-1 pitch from Schaub into left center. There it is. Rose has eclipsed Cobb. That's number 4,192.
There it is when Pete Rose became the all-time hit king, getting that knockoff of Eric Schau in the San Diego Padres. And yesterday, Jack, I'm not surprised. I mean, honestly, I'll get to how I feel about it in a minute. But, Rob Manfred, Commissioner of Baseball, lifts the lifetime bans on not just Pete Rose, Shoeless Joe Jackson, and some others who had lifetime bans from the game of baseball. And the key here is it was a lifetime ban. Rob Manfred, basically, I guess they said, when you've passed away, you can't really do any damage. So what the heck? We'll lift the ban, and now we'll put it on the Classic Era Committee if they want to put you in the Hall of Fame or not.
Yeah, and that's also not without mentioning the entire 1919 Black Sox scandal. All those players are also now eligible for the Hall of Fame. Their ban has been lifted too. So
yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Here's my thing on Rose, and I've always said this. It's in every clubhouse in baseball. It was clear. It said, if you bet on the game of baseball, you will be banned for life. This was everywhere. Everyone knew it because of the Black Sox scandal. That's why you had a commissioner. Kennesaw Mountain Landis was a judge who was hired to be the commissioner of baseball because of the Black Sox scandal. You knew, if you were Pete Rose, if you bet on the game of baseball and got caught, whether you're a player or manager, it didn't matter, you were banned for life. So you knew it, and you basically gave everybody the middle finger and said, I'm Pete Rose, I'm bigger than everything and everyone, and I'm going to bet on the game and screw you. I never felt a second of pity for Pete Rose. As a dude, you knew the rule and you broke it because you were arrogant. And look, for a lot of Pete Rose stories, Pete Rose's kid was in the Oriole organization. Rose did it because Rose said, I'm bigger than everything and everybody. He had a huge ego, and he got caught. So guess what, bub? You knew it. I got no pity for you. You what's that old saying? You made your own bed. Now lie in it. So I never, ever had any pity for him. He got what he deserved because that was the rule, and he knew the rule.
Yeah, and he openly denied the fact that he bet on baseball, bet on his team, all that stuff, before eventually coming clean.
But you know why he came clean, Jack? He was selling a book.
Yeah.
That's why he admitted, because he wanted to sell his book.
Exactly.
That's the only reason. And I remember this, because you weren't around, I'm old. There were men who would get in fistfights about Pete Rose.
Oh, my God.
I mean, honestly, drunk bar fights arguing about Pete Rose. He should be in the Hall of Fame, and he never bet on baseball, and everybody's lying, and I believe Pete. And then Pete comes out later, I kind of did buy my book. So to me, I never had any pity for him because he did what he did. He knew if he got caught what the penalty was. So I had zero pity for him. Now, here in the last so many years, as baseball is, hugged up to the world of gambling, and they're making all this money off of gambling, I was almost like, okay, now you put yourself in a spot. Do you look like hypocrites? Because, again, you weren't smooching gambling back when all this happened, but now all these years later, the whole thought on gambling has changed, right? It's legal in most states. You've now got teams in Vegas. So do you now reinstate Rose and all those Black Sox guys and just look at the Hall of Fame and say, okay, writers, if you want to put them in, go ahead. It's now up to you. We're going to lift the bans. I started to think about, is it hypocritical? So it was running that through my head here in the last couple of years.
It's very hypocritical because, number one, you go to any sporting event now, specifically baseball, and even if you're watching on TV, you see the advertisements for DraftKings or Prize Picks, whatever it is, literally everywhere. Like you see it watching a baseball game on, watching the Braves or whoever it might be, the Orioles. You see on the bottom of on the ticker on the scoreboard, you see the the betting lines for this guy to get over under a certain amount of hits or pitching strikeouts. And you see it all over the, advertisements at games and stuff. So it's like, yes, it's a little bit hypocritical. It's like they've become the thing they swore to destroy. And, now they're kind of becoming their own worst enemy in that way. But they're also accepting, gambling. So in that way, they should have also probably reinstated Pete Rose because of that. But it took until after he died back in September for them to do that. And the other thing with the Hall of Fame is, Rob Manfred is not the one that is putting them in the Hall of Fame. That's not how it works. The baseball writers, who obviously have agendas and stuff, these are the same writers who did not vote Derek Jeter unanimously into the Hall of Fame, or Ken Griffey, or all these other guys. Like Mariano Rivera is the only guy to receive 100% of the votes. So the fact that people have biases against the steroid guys, I can only imagine what it's going to be like with Pete Rose. And Shoeless Joe's another interesting argument because his stats are more than worthy of being in the Hall of Fame. And, the Black Sox scandal happened over 100 years ago. None of these people were alive when it happened to know what it was really going on behind the scenes. So I don't know. I mean, I think you put both these guys in the Hall of Fame. As for the other ones, I don't know, but these two should be in the Hall of Fame. It's just a matter of whether or not the writers are going to put them in.
The interesting part is this thing goes to now a classic era committee of 12. 8 of those 12 have to vote, I believe it's the way this works, for these guys. But baseball, not just, and these guys are a little bit mellower than the writers. But to your point about the writers, there is this... We're the guardians of the gate of the Hall of Fame, which is asinine. And I've always said this: if you don't vote Ken Griffey in at 100%, you lose your vote because I don't want to hear all this ridiculous. Well, if Babe Ruth wasn't unanimous, nobody should be. It's just stupid. So to the point of the writers, you are correct. Those guys, I guess they pick and choose too. They pick and choose who they vote for. Were you media friendly? Were you my bud? Did you give me stories, or would you not like to talk to the media?
Exactly.
And that crap should never come into play.
No.
Ever. And I'll say this, Jack, I'm a big proponent of this. Look, a lot of the guys that played the game of baseball were not very good human beings. Or football, basketball, whatever. Let's forget about, unless it's, Darren Sharp or bad, right? Where you're drugging women and having your way with them and committing awful, hideous crimes and felonies. If you're just not a good human being, who cares?
Yeah.
It's about what you do on the field, right? And I believe baseball uses that morals clause in there, how they pick and choose to use that in the voting. And I think that's wrong, too. I think just what you do on the field, that's what should matter. And so at the end of the day, look, Julius Joe Jackson, if you ever look at, he hit like 400 in that World Series that he was supposed to be throwing. There are people that, have you ever seen the movie 8 Men Out?
Yeah.
And again, it's a movie. But they're also historical backup to say Shoeless Joe Jackson really didn't know exactly what was going on.
Exactly. He kind of just seemingly got thrown into this a little bit to where, one guy goes down, the rest come down with them. That's kind of what it looks like here. So we'll never really know what actually went down.
Neither one of us are anywhere near this earth in 1919.
Exactly. So, and none of these writers are either. And again, for the moral standard of writers is supposed to be objective and all this stuff and supposed to be fair and unbiased. Well, I hate to say there's a lot of bias put into these votes seemingly. Like the people that don't vote for the guys you mentioned, Griffey, Jeter, all these guys that are borderline close to being unanimous should not have a vote ever again.
Jack, think about this.
Yeah.
Willie Mays wasn't unanimous.
No. Literally everyone except Mariano has been not unanimous. That's just crazy to think about. And so, look, all you need is, 75% of the vote to get in? If there is seriously more than 25% of the writers out there that don't vote for these two guys, we have bigger problems. First ballot, no matter what, look at the numbers. Yes, the integrity of the game matters to some extent, but what you did on the field is why you get into the Hall of Fame. It's not because of the Hall of Good Boy Scouts here.
No.
This is the Hall of Famers, the Hall of Amazing Players.
All right, NFL schedule releases tonight. You tingly? We'll talk about that next here on the Extra Point. Jack Veltri, Terry Ford in for Tyler here on the game. I get some air in this producer studio, Jack. It's like I got fry eggs on the console in here, man. Jeez. Unreal. Unreal. Extra point. Wrapping it up, our first hour with Jack Veltri from Gamecock Central, Terry Ford in for Tyler. The air conditioning in this place makes no sense.
No, it doesn't.
I mean, in there it's nice, man. In there you got it perfect right now. In here, honestly, it's almost toga time. It's unreal in here.
I would love to see you wear a toga. Heck, you know what? Honestly, Terry, you name the day, I will come in here wearing a toga too. Like, let's do it.
Toga Tuesdays.
Toga Tuesdays.
We'll start going. And no one wants to see it on the live stream at all.
No,
nobody needs to see that.
The people that watch, though, you get that special access.
You get Toga Tuesday.
Toga Tuesday.
All right, so the NFL, they're geniuses. The schedule releases tonight. Tons of people are going to watch. More people will watch the NFL schedule release than will probably watch a regular season NBA game or a Major League Baseball game. They just will, because the NFL has got us all just hypnotized, and they run their voodoo on us, and it works. And I'll be honest with you, Jack, I don't even care about this tonight, but I'll have it on in the background. It's just a schedule. I go look at the schedule tomorrow if I want to go on the internet. I don't need to watch the schedule release, right?
And here's the problem with the whole schedule release is, yes, in concept, it's a good idea because you're going to have people watching. The problem I have, though, is that it gets leaked so early. Like you see on Twitter, when you go on Twitter or whatever, you probably know the schedule before it even comes out because you have the beat writers putting it out. You have you guys like Adam Schefter and all these other insiders revealing this thing before it even comes out. So it kind of defeats the purpose of a schedule release special. But at the same time, not everyone is on social media. Mostly everyone is, and you're going to be able to see it and stuff. And as I'm watching on ESPN, I see the Cowboys, and I got to look it back who it was, but they just revealed one of the Thanksgiving Day games with the Cowboys. So
that's the goal of what the NFL does. They start leaking tidbits of it the week of, right? Because look, if the NFL knows everything the NFL does, especially this time of year, the media makes a big deal about. So you're the NBA, right? You've got the NBA playoffs going, and this year, for the first time in a while, chalk is not just rolling its way through the NBA playoffs. We've actually had some really interesting stuff going on in the NBA playoffs. But then NFL schedule release Wednesdays. No one's watching NBA tonight.
Yeah.
They're going to be watching NFL schedule release. And then when you start throwing these little tidbits out, those take precedent over all the other stories. So if you're the NFL, you're like, all right, let's give them the international games today. Give them a little Thanksgiving today. Hey, we'll give them the opener with Dallas and Philadelphia. We'll give them that on Monday. So the NFL keeps – look, the NFL is far from perfect. And some of the things the NFL does makes you question if they're sober or not, right? But when it comes to the marketing and promotion of their product, they are geniuses.
They know what they're doing. They know what they're
what's
doing.
up.
And I'm glad they've kind of revealed it in tidbits. Like, you get the London games, you get the international games, you get the Brazil game, Mexico. And then the Thanksgiving games are I think the Thanksgiving games are fantastic from the looks of it this year. Obviously, you got the Lions playing. We don't know who they're playing yet. The other two games are seemingly revealed. Chiefs at Cowboys.
That's a good one.
4:30 CBS. That's a great game right there. Buccaneers at Rams is the night game. The night game's always been the lousy game of the day. You got last year, I think it was like the Packers were on playing the Bears or something. Years past, I remember the Bills played the Saints one year. I mean, it's just the night games have not been very good from a Thanksgiving NFL standpoint. The Bucs and Rams,
Two playoff teams from last year, man.
That might be a good game right there.
Might get something there.
And I like the Chiefs playing the Cowboys. You know the Cowboys and the Lions are always going to be on Thanksgiving. But we may have a good schedule with Thanksgiving.
And you know what's made Thanksgiving better now in the last couple of years? The Lions are good.
Yes.
So they're going to get a good game. It's going to be a good game.
Yes.
Usually, how many times in all of our lives have we gone, we got to watch the Lions? Thanksgiving, noon kickoff Eastern. We got to put up with the crappy Lions. Now they're really good, so usually they pair them up with another good team, and you get like a nice tilt to start your Thanksgiving at noon with a good game for a change.
For the love of God, though, please do not pair the Lions with a bad team. Like, I think last year, actually, it was the Bears they played. And this was the last game with Eberflus, I think, before he got fired.
Well, they always, look, the Lions, and it is one of those things. The Lions and the Bears is an iconic NFL rivalry, sure. But let me ask you this. Let's be honest. From a national perspective, how many people care about the Lions and the Bears outside of Detroit and Chicago and pockets of the Midwest?
Not many.
Not many. And that's the thing. It's like iconic NFL rivalry. Okay. But here's the other part, too. Typically, either both these teams have stunk, or the Lions have stunk and the Bears have been good, or good-ish. So it's not like this like the Ravens and Steelers have both been good.
Yes.
And they hate each other. It's the best rivalry in the NFL because they're both also been good.
Yeah.
Neither one of them is like 3-14. So you get two teams that are polarizing because they're good teams. But again, to be fair, if they weren't, and you go, oh, the best rivalry in the league, Ravens and Steelers, Sunday Night Football. No one cares outside of Pittsburgh and Baltimore if they're not two good teams.
Exactly. That's what you need. You need, on these marquee holidays, you need good teams. You have the Chiefs play on Christmas Day. You're going to have a few more games on that day as well, on that Thursday, December 25th. A lot of good games coming up.
All right. Jalen Tartt's going to hang out with us next on the Extra Point. Extra point. Terry Ford hanging in for Tyler today. All week. Tyler's in Nashville hanging out. Took the wife, so there shouldn't be any kind of like bail money request. Jalen, he should be safe.
Yeah.
Should be safe. Jalen Tarr from WIS-TV hanging out with us like he does every Wednesday at 10 a.m. So I told Tyler, I said, just bring me back something. I mean, you can steal it. You don't have to buy it. I don't care. Just bring me back something.
Food?
I'll take food.
Barbecue?
As long as it's not too moldy.
Okay.
I'm good.
Okay.
I've been in radio my whole life. I have no pride when it comes to food. I just think with like radio people, and it's not as bad now because they're much more politically correct in 2025. But back in the old days, if you left food in the refrigerator at 5 o'clock, thinking, okay, I'll eat it tomorrow. No, you won't.
It'll be gone.
It's gone.
Yeah.
It's eaten, man.
Yeah.
The refrigerator was like, hey, have at it. Even if you put your initials on it and the date and do not eat, and nobody cared.
It's going to be gone regardless. I'm a food guy. I love food. I've never been to Nashville, and I always wanted to try their barbecue. So I was like, okay, that's one of the first things I'll try. I mean, souvenir-wise, what can you get in Nashville? I mean, the trail riding is a big trend now. You can get a cowboy hat, some cowboy boots. Elvis.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, it's a lot of different things you can get, but I've never been, so I don't know what to get from that.
See, that's a bucket list city for me. I've never been to either. Is Nashville?
Yeah.
Like my dad always wanted to go to Nashville. And he's a huge country music guy, but I've never been. I do want to go at some point. Hit Nashville. So
I agree.
I'm going to live through Tyler until I get there.
I want to know what he will get, and we'll hopefully next week we can ask his recap of his trip and everything. But
here's my thing too. To your point, what is he bringing back with? Souvenir wise, because Tyler, he's going to find a NASCAR with Nashville on it, right?
Yeah,
because that's his bag.
Yeah.
But yeah, for me, like I've had friends who have gone to Nashville and brought me back, and it's usually the cheesy ashtray that says Nashville, or a shot glass that says Nashville, or a coffee mug that says Nashville. But I like to get something that's like truly Nashville. You know what I mean? It's not just a touristy thing. So that's why I told Tyler, steal me something. Steal me something nice.
I don't know. That's interesting because it's not really you got the Tennessee Titans. They're not in Nashville. I mean, so I don't know. I'm really it might be NASCAR related. So
with him, absolutely, it probably will be in some way, shape, or form. All right, so you got your Tribe Called Quest shirt on. Is that what I'm seeing?
Yes, we're bugging out today. So yeah, I had to put some throwback on. I didn't know what to wear today, so I was like, let me put Tribe Called Quest, and I've been bumping Tribe all the morning. So I'm ready.
So that's been in the years, right?
Yes. So back in the day, my dad was a DJ.
Okay.
In high school, and he bumped a lot of Tribe. So I was just like, okay. And I never really got into their music until like recently when I went to New York for grad school. And ever since then, I was like, yep, I'm gonna have to get a shirt.
You're in.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to get a shirt. The next shirt I probably will want, music wise, old school. I don't have a Biggie shirt.
You don't?
I do not have a Biggie shirt. And I love Biggie.
You got to get one.
I got to get me one.
You got to get one.
Got to get me one. Jay-Z is the ultimate one.
Okay.
I do not have anything
I can't
Jay-Z
believe you don't have any Jay-Z.
That's the hardest one to get because it costs so much.
Oh, really?
Yes. But a Jay-Z shirt would be interesting.
Nice. And a Biggie shirt will be easier.
Yes. Yeah. Biggie shirt will be way easy to get. But I think, I have a Tupac. That's probably what I'll wear next week is Tupac. I'll wear Tupac next week.
Nice. All right, so got a W last night, Jalen.
By the skin of their teeth.
Yeah, that was one of those. I was talking to Jack about it, Jack Velcher last hour from Gamecock Central, and I was listening to it because I was doing a bunch of stuff last night. So I get in the car, listening. 1-0, 1 solo homer, whatever. 2-0 solo homer, whatever. 3-0 solo homer. And then all of a sudden, get in the car.
5-0.
5. and we're getting late. Now we're getting late now. We're crawling into the late innings. It's still 5-0, 5-1. You're not really getting anything going on offense, and you get to 5-2, and then finally you break through. But that thing was not looking good, Jalen, for a while.
They were digging themselves in a hole. And as soon as when it got dark, that's when Carolina makes these miraculous runs, and they get lucky. They were hitting some base hit shots, and it looked like Winthrop was going to catch those fly balls, but it just ended up hitting the ground right before, and they were just scoring on runs, and next thing you know, they're coming back. I just don't see how Carolina keeps putting themselves in positions to be in deep holes like this, but miraculously, they find a way to win. But if you play like this against LSU this weekend, there's no chance in hell that you're going to win.
No, LSU is number one in the country for a reason. They're really good. They pitch, they hit, they catch it when you hit it to them. LSU's good, man, really good. They're going to start guys on Friday and Saturday that are top 100 prospects in the Major League draft. You know, the Friday night starter could go in the top 10 in the draft. So you're going to go up against some serious arm talent. Offensively, they're one of the best teams in the SEC. You're right. If you play like you did last night in those 3 games coming up Thursday, Friday, Saturday, it's going to be a long 3 days.
Yeah, and already, just looking at the highlights, there was nobody at the game. So I don't even know what the turnout would be. And, a couple weeks ago, we had a fan call about the fan turnout from the games for this year, and he was clear that they were not coming, and it was visually shown there was nobody at the ballpark. So I'm just very interested to see what the support is going to be when you got the number 1 team in the country coming into town this weekend, going into the final week. But I if they can play solid baseball, win, lose, or draw, I will take effort over anything. But you can't get blown out like how you did in the other. I think it was Florida. What was it, 22-3?
Yeah, the Florida games were ugly. Some of the Auburn games, except that the second game was ugly. And, look, we always want to see Williams-Brice, Founders, CLA. We want to see them always packed because that's when, that's when you get the juice of a live event, right? And your home field, home court advantage, whatever. But, look, I get it. This year has been ugly. And when, you got dollars to spend, and, look, sports is entertainment. Let's just be real here. When you're taking your entertainment dollar, do you want to go to these games? It does. Look, I've always heard this, and as I gotten older, I have not. I agree with it less and less. Hey, don't be a bandwagon jumper. Be there for the good and the bad. Look, nobody wants to continually go to watch bad things. If you go to a movie and it's bad, do you go next week? I'm going back.
No.
No. If you go to a restaurant, eat bad food, and you're throwing up all night, hey, man, let's go back to that restaurant tomorrow.
A 0-star review.
Right, exactly. So you get to a point where when a season has gone bad, you're not going to go because it's a downer. It's just a downer. So it doesn't mean you're a bad fan or whatever, or you're a bandwagon jumper. Look, every market in America has bandwagon jumpers.
Yeah.
Have you watched a Knicks game?
Yes.
Have you seen all of a sudden celebrities who couldn't tell you 3 Knicks players who were sitting there in the front 2 rows screaming and yelling like they've been Knicks fans for life, right?
Right, exactly.
Bandwagon jumpers are everywhere in the country. Every fan base in America has those people that if you're winning a lot, they want to be part of it because they want to feel good and be part of a great experience. So, I know there are people who are, you got to get there, you got to go watch games. I understand that in theory. In a perfect world, yes, everybody goes no matter what. But if you just go with human nature is like, look, man, this is bad. And it's been getting worse. And I'm just, I'll be back. I just got to take a break because this is bad, especially from a fan base that is used to a great to really good to at least good baseball program.
My thing is, we're looking at the now. I'm worried about the future. Mm-hmm. How much worse can this get going into next season? I mean, Maneri has, he kind of did not see this coming at all with him coming in the first year. And I get it. It's the first year. You have not coached in 3 years. But you got to do some serious work in the offseason to try to, put this behind you going into the next season. But they can easily do that by at least winning 1 game of saying, okay, there's a little bit of hope. But I'm just interested to see how much worse can this get for Carolina fans. The Carolina fans are already upset that it's been a disappointing season for the baseball team.
Yeah, and look, if Coach Maneri is back next year, he wants to come back. He said it. Now we'll see where everything goes. Right? I mean, look, let's just be real. This was awful. And if you do say, if Jeremiah Donati says, look, it's 1 year. First year coming back, hasn't coached in 3 years, got to see the SEC, get the lay of the land. Okay, Paul, let's sit down. You've seen it for a year. What do you think? Maneri's already said you got to go get guys who can hit home runs and guys who can throw the baseball really hard. Well, guess what? Every team in America is looking for those people. You're not just South Carolina, right? All right, so if Maneri comes back next year, in the offseason, you got to re-recruit the players you want to keep because not many people want to stick around if they think this is the way it's going to be, right?
The portal.
So, exactly. You got to re-recruit to keep your guys out of the portal that you want to keep.
Yeah.
B, you got to go in the portal and get some players. C, your high school recruiting right now, you're top 25 in the country in recruiting. You're 25th. That puts you 14th in the SEC, unfortunately.
NIL.
All these things matter in this offseason. How much money is going to be put together to go out and get these players? Because, Jalen, you know this.
Yes.
This is not a criticism. In today's NIL world, you're recruiting players who are like, you've had a great legacy in the past and great tradition, whatever. By the way, how many bags you giving me? That's the world we live in.
In the words of, Bad Boy Records, no offense to Diddy, it's all about the Benjamins. I mean, you got to have the money and you got to have the recruiting aspect to get players to stay in your program and to come to your program. If you can have a balance of that with the recruiting, at least get the in-state talent first to come in and be developed. I wouldn't be shocked if Maneri stays or leaves, regardless. I mean, if he leaves, if they don't want him to continue, I would be shocked if they let him go after the first season. You gave him one shot, so I mean, how much worse can this get? If he does leave, how much bad can this get?
And there are obviously, there are fans who want to see a new coach next year because of what happened this year. But, again, the flip side of that is, okay, it's year one. It was much worse than anybody thought. I don't think Paul Maneri's sitting in his office going, this is exactly the way I saw it. No, I don't think so.
He's probably scratching his head talking about what do I need to do to fix this going into the next season.
And I think that's the conversation. If you're Jeremiah Donati, the athletic director, you say, Paul, sit down, shut the door. What's your plan for next year? What have you learned from this year? How are you going to attack the offseason? And what's your philosophy and plan moving forward? What did you learn from this? What do you have to evolve from this? Because baseball's different than it was even 3 years ago. So what are we going to do moving forward? What do you got for me? You got a PowerPoint? What we got here? And then you hear what coach has to say, and you move forward from that. I feel like that's the first thing that has to be done here.
But it was a shocker, too, just to see softball do amazingly well, and they had their first-year head coach, and everybody's looking like, okay, look what softball is doing. Why is baseball not doing the same thing? So it's a lot of talk around Maneri of the performance that has been put on this season, but they really have to turn it around quick, fast, and in a hurry.
And I'll throw the last part. Money's a thing here. If Jeremiah Donati decides he wants to move on and get another coach for whatever the reasons, that's going to cost you about $7 million to buy out Maneri and the staff. Then you're going to need, $7 to $9 million for the new staff. That's $14 to $16 million you're going to spend. And look, baseball's big here, but it's not football.
No.
And it doesn't generate revenue like basketball.
No.
So that's how much money in what could be a rev share environment moving forward that you're going to spend if you're going to move on to a new coach. So the money is going to matter unless you're going to find a lot of rich people who want to go, here, I got some money for you to go help you. So all these things have to come into this decision.
And I would hit the ground running now because with high school in the state right now, it's playoff season, and you want to get the best of the best in the state first, right? So this is a golden opportunity that they cannot miss if they want to have a resurging season going into next year.
All right, coming back, Josh Pate from CBS Sports put out his way too early top 20 college football poll. South Carolina's in it. Clemson's in it too.
Yep.
We'll give you a little heads up on that in case you haven't seen it yet. Next on the Extra Point, Jalen Tart from WIS TV hanging around. Terry Ford in for Tyler on the game. Terry Ford in for Tyler. Jalen Tart hanging out with us till 11. Then Gamecock Central Takeover Hour with Chris Clark, Wes Mitchell here on the game. Jalen, as I look at my TV here in the producer studio, SEC Network right now running the South Carolina UCLA College World Series, which we all know South Carolina won.
Yep.
Back in 2010. And SEC story tonight.
Wow.
7 o'clock.
Cool.
The story of those South Carolina baseball teams with Ray Tanner back-to-back champions. Almost made it back-to-back-to-back. Lost in 2012 in the final. They were runners-up. And especially with what's going on this year, it's good to go take the clicker, take the remote, sit down, watch your good old days, make yourself feel good.
Yeah. Hopefully that can give some fans, or in the team, if they watch that, some, momentum to go into their series against LSU this weekend.
Yeah, make you feel good. Watch a nice documentary about the good old days of Carolina baseball. Again, that's tonight, 7 o'clock, SEC Storied on the SEC Network. All right, so Josh Pate put out his way too early top 20 coming off of spring practice.
Mm-hmm.
It's interesting. Look, we won't bury the lead. South Carolina is at 18, which is lower than you see a lot of other folks put them.
Mm-hmm.
And the team that's at number 1 is that team in the upstate, Clemson. So start off with South Carolina. I get, Pate's look, South Carolina lost a lot on defense, right?
Yeah.
Lost the interior of the offensive line, lost a starting running back, lost a safety that went in the second round of the NFL draft, lost a corner. I get there's a lot of pieces to replace. So I understand it. I get a lot of teams are looking more at Lenore Sellers is back as your starting quarterback. Dylan Stewart's back coming off the edge. And in an era, Jalen, where everybody's redoing their team every year, right?
Yeah.
If you got your starting quarterback and you got arguably the best edge pass rusher in the nation, people go, oh, that's a good start. We're putting you in the college football playoff or at least in the top 15, right?
Right. But they have to get there.
Yes.
That's the key. You have to get there. 18 to me, at least for Carolina, the top 15. At least going in 12, 11, or 10. Clemson at number 1 is kind of a head scratcher. I do not think that Clemson is better than Texas. I do not think they're better than Notre Dame. I do not think that they're looking at this, you got Texas, you got Penn State. Mm-hmm. Alabama is a question mark. At least Clemson being in the top 10 is reasonable. That's a reasonable take for me.
It's interesting because, Josh Pate, because this is what a lot of these people are doing who are putting this stuff out, so we'll talk about it and click on it, is the idea that, Clemson has their starting quarterback coming back, Cade Klubnik, who seemed to turn a corner last year. Mm-hmm. They got a lot of weapons on offense coming back too. And defensively, they bring in defensive coordinator Tom Allen from Penn State, who is a really good DC, because Clemson's defense last year it had some leakage. Yeah. So I guess what Josh Pate is probably doing is say, okay, who's got the least amount of question marks that were in the playoff last year? And, Texas, look, everybody thinks Arch Manning is automatically going to be like Peyton and Eli. But we don't know what Arch Manning's going to be, right, Jalen?
Right.
We don't know.
We don't know. It's just the fact that he has the Manning family legacy, that last name. Now, a interesting team, LSU. LSU is going to be everyone. That's going to be an interesting team for me to watch out for because Nussmeier is coming back. Mm-hmm. We saw what they did against Carolina last year where they kind of had a little breakdown at the end of the season. But I think Brian Kelly bringing Nussmeier back was key. And I think he will be in the mix of the Heisman contendership with Cade Klubnik and hopefully Lenore Sellers. But, yeah, I'm very interested to see what this Clemson defense is going to look like with Penn State, with the former Penn State DC coming over. But I'm interested to see how high of a ceiling can Lenore Sellers truly get from what we saw at the end of last season.
Well, that's the thing with Lenore. I mean, you saw him getting better as the year went along. Then you saw the last quarter of the season where, beats Clemson with his legs, beats Missouri with his arm. And you start to see a guy who is looking like one of the top 5 playmakers in the country coming back this year.
Right.
Where the sky's the limit. And if his arm talent and the passing game can match what he can do when he tucks it and runs it, how you stopping him? And that's, I guess, where a lot of people who have South Carolina so high up on the list go, we watched this guy at the end of the year, if he even grows from year 1 to year 2 as a starter like we think he will, oh my God, this guy's a weapon. And if he does get that, like you said, he'll be sitting in New York waiting to see if his name's called.
Yeah.
And he'll be sitting, by the way, also at the NFL draft waiting for his name to get called in the first round in the top 10. And then when you look at Dylan Stewart, now Dylan Stewart, again, still has 3 years before he can roll out. But you saw what Dylan Stewart did last year, rushing the passer. If Stewart gets better and becomes an improved all-around player to go with that pass rushing skill, what kind of game record does he become on defense? So you have 2 very interesting pieces to build upon for this upcoming year that makes everybody excited.
And I've been saying this since the beginning, since the freshman class has come in. I'm very, very excited for the freshman class. I'm very interested to see what type of impact outside of the quarterback room, the wide receiver room, the defensive room, the offensive line. The key to me is the offensive line being able to protect Lenoris so that Lenoris can perform the way that he needs to perform. Now, that's critical. And defensively, what freshman is going to step up going into the game? Now, that will be answered in the Virginia Tech game. And it's a lot riding on this game where Beamer is coaching against his dad's alma mater, where they were a powerhouse in the late 80s going into the middle 2000s. Now, I'm interested to see what Virginia Tech will look like because they have the Irmo quarterback that is over there, what they will do. But I'm interested. I'm just very, very – I have not been excited of a Carolina football season since the 2011 season where they beat Alabama. This is the most excited I've ever been. But I'm very happy that it's literally halfway here. Like, it's coming, literally.
And going to your point of the offensive line, it's a huge key.
Yes.
But look, again, when we're drafting fantasy football teams, nobody's picking a center. It's not sexy. But look at the offensive line last year. Was it better than 2 years ago? Absolutely. But still, there were times, the Texas A&M game, how many times did Lenora Sellers escape a sack in the Texas A&M game? I lost count.
Plenty of times.
Yeah, I lost count. And so if the offensive line can improve and take a step up, not only will Lenora Sellers have more time in the pocket to deliver the football, or if no one's open, to take off and make a play with his legs when he's not evading pass rushers, also your run game. You lost Rocket Sanders. I like the running back room, but if the offensive line can win at the line of scrimmage, all of a sudden, you're going 3-4 yards before contact instead of 1 or 2 yards, and you're trying to break tackles. So, yeah, the offensive line is a huge key to this football team. And going to your LSU point, it's interesting. I think because Brian Kelly is so unlikable, he comes off so unlikable that everybody can't wait to pile on Brian Kelly. LSU has won 10 games, and 9 games in Kelly's 3 years. Played for the SEC championship his first year. But everybody looks at it like, well, dude, the last 3 guys that coached this team won national championships, Brian. You're going to year 4, bub. What are we doing here? LSU went crazy in the portal to improve that team.
Yes.
You're talking about Nussmeier coming back. They have some other interesting pieces that are also still there from last year. This team has huge expectations. And if they only, I put in air quotes, win 9 games, there's going to be – Brian might not be able to sit down in that chair. That seat's going to get hot.
And then another thing, too, how will Georgia look without their quarterback, without their starting with Carson Beck gone?
Yeah.
That's another one.
Gunnar Stockton. How's Gunnar Stockton
How is Gunnar Stockton going to look? What will the big talk is Bill Belichick at UNC.
We're not even talking about the football coach right now, are we? No one's even saying, what do you think the team's going to look like this year? Everybody's going, what's up with the girlfriend?
Right. Like, that's a big storyline going into it. 1 minute they are banning the girlfriend. The next minute they're coming out saying, oh, it was a misunderstanding that she can be at the facility. I mean, this season has a lot of hype to it with the players that are, the stars in today's college football. But Carolina especially is one of the biggest talks off of what happened last season going into this season with just Lenora Sellers alone. Very, very excited and interested to see playing a similar schedule to what they played last year. Hopefully they can get the games that they lost last year back. So, yeah, I'm very excited about this upcoming season.
All right, 3 o'clock kick on August 31st against Virginia Tech on that Sunday, by the way. 3 o'clock kick.
I thought it was a Saturday, but for it to be a Sunday and that be the only game on Sunday, I'm down for that. I mean, go to church, come back, eat your Sunday dinner, and watch football, Carolina football, to end your weekend.
There you go. By the way, Thursday, baseball against LSU, 6:45 pregame, 7 o'clock first pitch on 107.5 the game here in Columbia, and our affiliate 100.3 the game in Myrtle Beach. All right, we will pop back here on the Extra Point. Get a little Paul Maneri from last night. Paul Maneri's not down with Tuesday baseball games, Jalen. Not down with Tuesday baseball games. We'll hear from Coach next here on the almost at halftime show here on the Extra Point on the game. A couple teams sprung leaks. Cleveland Cavaliers sprung a leak. Boston Celtics sprung an Achilles and a leak.
The Denver Nuggets.
Denver Nuggets last night.
Jokic dropping
Nikola
44 on 17 of 25.
By the way, besides Jokic, the rest of the Nuggets, I think, went 1 of 15 in the fourth quarter last night.
Shooting 8% from three and 26% from the field in the fourth quarter, only scoring 8 points.
Unbelievable.
That's crazy.
Yeah, so there was some leakage. Thank God Wofford sprung a leak last night in the eighth inning. As South Carolina comes back and gets a much-needed 6-5 victory. Coach Maneri, post-game, was talking about he's not a big fan of playing on Tuesdays.
Well, I'm proud of that, actually, because you look around the country, not many people do that. And I think the only midweek game we lost was to North Carolina when we had a tie game in the eighth inning and got away from us. It's hard. College baseball's hard. You have an emotional weekend, and then you got to turn around and play on Tuesdays. Like, I used to always play on Wednesdays because I always thought it was so hard after an emotional weekend, and then Monday's a day off, and then you got to jump right in and play on Tuesday. But when the SEC added their TV contract, where we had a lot of series Thursday through Saturday, I got tired of having to call schools because you never knew when you were going to have that week, and they didn't release that until like December. So then I'm having to call schools, and sometimes those schools had games scheduled on Tuesday and Wednesday already or something like that. So, I just finally, a few years ago, just threw up my hands and said, I'll just play on Tuesday like the rest of the world, But it's hard, and that's why you see a lot of teams lose on Tuesdays, because it's very difficult to put a weekend behind you, whether you played great and won them all, or whether you got beat all 3 games or something in between.
It is an interesting point.
Yeah.
You play a 3-game series against, especially now, high-quality SEC opponents, and then you pop a Tuesday, and, you're playing a mid-major, group of 5, whatever you want to call it. But if you're playing a decent one, and you're coming Tuesday, and you're not using one of your better arms either, right?
Right.
And you could put yourself out there to lose on Tuesday to a team that you should beat 8 times out of 10, but one of those 2 times could be that midweek game on a Tuesday when you're popping back from a Saturday, let's say win or loss. It doesn't even matter. I get what Maneri's saying there. It is a quick turnaround. And look, a lot of the criticisms we can give this baseball team, we can give a ton of them this year. Those midweek games against opponents they should beat, they have won all those games.
But they've been close.
Yes, I will not disagree with you there. We've had some nail biters, haven't we? Like last night, for an example.
My thing is, if you do not like scheduling on Tuesdays, why are you continuing to schedule on Tuesdays when you can schedule on a Wednesday?
I think it depends. Like Maneri was saying, if you got that Thursday, Friday, Saturday coming up, you can't really play on Wednesday. Then you're going Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday. So you want a little space in there. So you're kind of screwed because you play Saturday, you're off Sunday. If you do let's play the game. You roll Thursday, Friday, Saturday, right? Now you're going to have Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday off to get to Thursday. The only day you can really play, because you don't want to play Monday, that's 2 days away from Saturday. So the only day to play is Tuesday. But it does stink because, again, you're not going to be using one of your better pitchers, obviously. And you are coming a short turnaround after playing that series against an opponent that typically is inferior to you. So you're kind of set up to occasionally lose one of these. And I don't see a better way to do it, to be honest.
Yeah, that's kind of like a double-edged sword, so to speak, scenario for scheduling. I don't see how you can get around that. It's just a matter of you have to prepare. It's a part of the schedule. You're preparing your players for what it would be like in the major leagues, in the minor leagues, because sometimes they have to do something like this.
Oh, you're playing 6 games a week in the show, man.
Yeah.
You got 1 day off. And now, again, if you're playing the Friday, Saturday, Sunday, then you're going to play the Wednesday in the midweek and then start your Friday, Saturday, Sunday again. But when you start doing those Thursday, Friday, Saturdays, everything starts to get clunky. But yeah, you're right. Major League Baseball, usually you're playing, let's say if you have Monday off after a weekend series, you're playing Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. And if you come out and you're going to play Monday, then you do Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, you get off Thursday, then you're going Friday, Saturday, Sunday.
Right.
1 day a week for 6 months, man, pretty much.
Yeah, and they have 180-plus games for a reason. And I think for college, specifically for Carolina baseball, you have to prepare your team for those type of environments. Look what Dawn Staley is doing. She's preparing her players for the W. Look what Shane Beamer is doing. He's preparing his players for the NFL. I mean, for the NFL, knowing that they only play on every Saturday, but the work that's being put in, it does not change. Now, they are winning the mid-major games, but it could have been bad. Now, I can understand you saying that and you're losing, but if you're winning, it kind of defeats the purpose of you saying that, because you're winning these games having to play on a Tuesday that you do not like playing. So that's how I personally see it. So
I get you. Speaking of baseball, as we are doing the extra point, Jalen Tart, Terry Ford in for Tyler here on the game in Columbia, Florence, and Myrtle Beach. All right, so Pete Rose,
yes,
Julius Joe Jackson, among the crew of players who their lifetime bans have been wiped away now, and now it's up to the Classic Era Committee coming up in a couple of years if they want to vote any of these players into baseball's Hall of Fame. Got lifted yet? Are you surprised it got lifted?
I'm not, but I don't understand why it took them so long. Why are you waiting until Pete Rose is not here?
Well, I think that I can be honest with you, that's part of it. I could be wrong here. I don't think Major League Baseball wanted to see Pete Rose walk up to that podium and in a microphone talk about how wonderful Pete Rose is and how bad he's been screwed and he deserved to be here a lot sooner and it's been unfair to me and blah, blah, blah. I don't think Major League Baseball wanted that kind of smoke. I just don't. I said this with Jack, and my thing with Pete Rose is simple. In every clubhouse in baseball, there is a sign at that time that said, if you bet on the game of baseball, you will be banned for life. Everybody knew it. The Black Sox scandal, ironically, Shoeless Joe, the Black Sox scandal brought a commissioner, Kennesaw Mountain Landis, a real judge who was brought in, and that lifetime ban was put in place because of the Black Sox scandal. Every player and manager and bat boy and ball girl, everybody knew that rule, that law, that commandment. Pete Rose said, screw you, I'm Pete Rose. I'm bigger than all of you, I'll do what I want. You won't ban me for life, I'm Pete Rose. Pete Rose knew that he knew the punishment. He didn't care. It's like getting pulled over for speeding, Jalen. I see it on the side of the road, right? I see 70. If I'm going 95, I get pulled over. I knew the speed limit, right?
And that's the thing with sports. One player is never bigger than a sport in every single sport. And, I mean, Pete Rose as a player was phenomenal. Phenomenal. But outside, personally, I just think the ego was kind of a bit too big. But you're judging him off of his performance.
That's the way it should be. Now, baseball has a morals clause when you're voting for the Hall of Fame, which I don't think, look, unless you commit horrific acts outside of the game of baseball, your off the field shouldn't matter. Like the NFL, besides Darren Sharper, which we know you obviously can't put Darren Sharper in your Hall of Fame. On the field, he deserves it. But like Lawrence Taylor. Lawrence Taylor wasn't the greatest dude off the field in a lot of ways. Lawrence Taylor's an easy Hall of Famer because the NFL looks at on-the-field performance and not the off-the-field stuff. Baseball's different. Pete Rose on the field obviously is a Hall of Famer. If Pete Rose doesn't get caught betting on baseball, Pete Rose is already in the Hall of Fame first ballot.
Yes.
Because, look, Pete Rose wasn't the greatest dude off the field either. If you don't believe me, look it up. I mean, the great quote from Pete Rose, once this thing came out a couple years ago that he had relations with an underage girl, he fought back and said, no, I didn't. She was 16. The age of consent in Ohio was 16. I will leave that laying there for you. But Pete Rose, if he wasn't banned from baseball for the betting, he'd have been a first ballot Hall of Famer.
I agree.
I mean, Ty Cobb was an awful human being. Hall of Famer. Nobody questioned it. I think my problem with baseball is they pick and choose in this clause. And we'll see in a couple years because Pete Rose now the Classic Era Committee can vote in Pete Rose and Shoeless Joe. And Shoeless Joe is totally different. A lot of people, the historians of that day, will say Shoeless Joe Jackson really had no idea what was going on. He took the money. He was a country guy. But you look at his numbers in the 1919 World Series. They were phenomenal. Shoeless Joe, quote-unquote, balled out in the 1919 World Series, even though the Black Sox threw it. So it's a very interesting conversation for Shoeless Joe. We always focus on Pete Rose because that's our lifetime. But Shoeless Joe is and obviously he's a guy from the state of South Carolina. All right, we'll pop back in, wrap up with Jalen. The NFL schedule's coming out tonight, man. You got to be Tingly?
No, I mean one of the games came out. I mean Kansas City and Dallas for Thanksgiving.
We're going to talk about it next here on the Extra Point. Terry Ford in for Tyler. Jalen is here for another segment, the Gamecock Central Takeover Hour at 11 on the game. Extra Point, Terry Ford, Jalen Tart. Getting you ready here in just a little bit for Gamecock Central Takeover Hour. Chris Clark, Wes Mitchell. That's at 11. All right, so Jalen, and I know I'm whatever about it. The NFL schedule releases tonight on TV.
Yeah.
Millions of people will watch it because anything the NFL does, people watch.
Yeah.
I mean, let's face it, the NFL could just have a burping contest and a couple million people would watch it.
They would do a rock, paper, scissors, shoe, best 10 out of 100, and I would, yeah.
Yeah, because that's what happens. Now, the NFL is so good because they've been leaking games out all week.
Yeah.
And because, look, I said this to Jack last hour as well. The NFL does things that make you shake your head at times going, what are you doing? But when it comes to marketing and promoting their products, the NFL is on it.
Yes.
And think about this tonight. They're just going to tell you games that are going to be played in September, and people are going to watch this.
Yeah.
And it's fascinating. Look, I love the draft. I'm a draft dork. But think about this. I will sit for 3 days and watch names get called.
Yeah.
That's what I do.
And that's not a bad thing. I mean, you're studying who is going where, how they're going to fit in the team, and how they're going to be used in the upcoming season.
It's packaged so well. I think I have buddies who watch the NFL Combine. I got zero interest in the Underwear Olympics. I don't care about it. But again, I got friends who will take off a day of work and watch a Combine. The NFL has mesmerized us with some kind of voodoo hypnosis thing, and we're all in on anything they do, including tonight.
Honestly, I'm very excited. When I saw that the Philadelphia Eagles were going to play Dallas the very first game, I'm scratching my head. Why would they play a divisional game the first game? A critical divisional game the first game. And it's at Dallas. So it's like, okay, we really about to see what Dallas is made of with their first-year head coach and with Philadelphia coming off of their Super Bowl victory, how they're going to how they're going to play in the first game of the season. Now, I'm interested in that because it's the Super Bowl damn champions. I mean, Jalen Hurts, Saquon Barkley had a historic year. Can he top what he did last year? And Dak coming back off of an injury, how is he going to look in the first game back?
Well, and it's easy why they put this game in because the ratings of the defending Super Bowl champions, the Dallas Cowboys could play the South Carolina School for Podiatry and pull $30 million, right? And so you get the Cowboys, the most polarizing team in America, the Super Bowl champions, and you get massive ratings. But you're right, it's a huge division game, and you're playing it right out the gate. All right, so last night, 'cause we got to get this in before we take off. NBA last night, Oklahoma City survives against Denver because besides Nikola Jokic, no Nugget decided to play in the fourth quarter.
No.
And by the way, the shot Jokic hit to tie the game at 100 with 3 seconds left on the shot clock.
Incredible. Oh, my God.
Ridiculous. But then Jalen Williams corner 3 with a tie game.
Yes.
You want to talk about ice? You talk about a money shot?
A betting shot to me. Like, that kind of, sealed the deal. My takeaway was Cleveland. How they were up 44-25. And Indiana, good old Indiana, Tyrese Halliburton comes right on back and just brings them back into the game. It was 96-95 when I tuned in. And next thing I know, Cleveland just goes cold, and Indiana just takes it to them, and they just rips their heart out. And Donovan Mitchell led teams don't typically go far in the playoffs.
No.
They do not go far.
That's a conversation that has to start being talked about. I mean, in Utah, they didn't. In Cleveland, look, this Cleveland team is really talented, man. You go Garland, Mobley, Allen.
Yes.
They have dudes.
Strus. I mean,
and once again, they underachieve.
A complete failure.
Something has to get looked at. You can say, oh, well, they're just young. Well, that was last year. You were young last year and took your whooping. This year, you should have at least got to the conference finals with the team you had.
And the coach of the year.
But I will say this. You know the second best team in the NBA is record-wise since the 1st of January? Indiana Pacers.
Yeah.
They've been crushing folks for months now.
Yeah.
And I'm going to say this. Tyrese Halliburton, whoever decided to vote him the most overrated player in the NBA.
Can kick rocks.
Oh, absolutely. Think about this really quick. The Sacramento Kings, I don't know if this backcourt could have worked. The Sacramento Kings could have had a backcourt of Luka Doncic and Tyrese Halliburton.
With De'Aaron Fox.
But they gave it up for De'Aaron Fox.
Yeah.
And then De'Aaron Fox said this year, you know what I want to do? I want to get out of Sacramento.
And now he's in San Antonio where they could potentially get Giannis.
That's another big conversation. I think Giannis leaves Milwaukee this offseason.
I think so, too.
And I totally understand why. That's going to be interesting. And then, of course, we didn't talk about the Dallas Mavericks getting the number 1 overall pick. I've had so many people say this to me, and I'm not a conspiracy theory guy, but this does make me lift an eyebrow. I've had people say to me, this is the NBA paying Dallas back for trading Luka Doncic to their marquee franchise, the Lakers.
Real quick, Knicks, Boston. Who you got?
Oh, Knicks will win the series.
Oh, me
now.
too.
Knicks will win. Jason Tatum's done. Knicks will win. I'm going to tell you this, though. If the Knicks think they're going to roll through Indiana.
7 games. I got into 7 games going to the Knicks.
That Indiana Knicks series is going to be fun. Jalen, go work, my man.
Hey, thank you, man.
Gamecock Central Takeover Hour next here on the Extra Point is done. I don't know what I'm saying anymore, Jalen. I've lost my mind.
It's all good.
All right, what is up? Welcome in Gamecock Central Takeover Hour. He is Chris. I am Wes. Hope you're well. We're brought to you by Firehouse Subs. As always, is today Wednesday? It's
Yes,
Wednesday,
it is.
right? Okay, good. Happy Hump Day. Hope you all are doing well. And Chris, I think this is a day where we're just going to hit on a lot of little all over the place topics because, Gamecock baseball, they do get a win yesterday. I don't know how much y'all want to talk or hear about that. We're not quite into we are going to talk Gamecock softball in this regional once it gets a little bit closer. I don't think we're quite at that point.